All right, welcome into another edition of Catching Up with Tommy Mack here on 1010XL's podcast platform, 1010XL.com, the 1010XL app. We're live on Facebook. Good morning to all you out there on Facebook land and archived on the 1010XL YouTube channel and all across social media. Brought to you by my good friends at Team Tommy Mack. Please check out TommyMack.net. You'll see them all right there. Morgan & Morgan is new to the team. And to see J-Dog, junk removal, and hauling, go to jdog.com. There are franchise opportunities available. They are veteran-owned and operated, and they are looking for good employees to work with and work for and all that good stuff. So check them out, jdog.com. We'll talk about the rest of the team in just a little bit later. Of course, a lot going on in Jaguar land. I did jump on the Facebook yesterday. Once the announcement was made that Trent Baalke would be staying on as the general manager and Doug Peterson let go as the head coach. We'll talk about all that. We'll talk about the press conference. We'll talk about Eric Armstead's comments, which is really bizarre. And we'll get into a lot, including potential candidates who we could maybe look. I mean, look, we might as well get into that because it's over for Doug Peterson, whether you agree with it or not. But we'll get into all of that and more. A little shaky handle there. But before we do, let's welcome in my man, Grammage. Grammage is here. Good morning, Grammage. How are you, pal?
It's a new day, Tommy.
You know, it is a new day, and it's a new era. And I'll tell you what I like about Tuesday morning. It gives you a day to get it all in and then reflect a little bit and, you know, get away from the emotional side of it.
Yeah.
Because when it came down yesterday, I was emotional too. To be honest with it, when I first heard it, I was like, why not just keep both for another year if you're not going to fire both? It really doesn't make sense because now we've been through it. You're going to have this seesaw of who's the GM, who's the coach, who's bringing in who, and whatnot. But
it's
I don't
very.
know. How did you feel when it came down yesterday?
How did I feel about Doug or Trent or the whole thing?
Just the firing of Doug Peterson and keeping Trent Baalke.
So, Mike Dempsey said this on Jaguars yesterday, and I wholeheartedly agree. If it was my decision and I was told I have to keep one, I would have kept Doug.
Yeah, me too.
So I'm not a fan of. I think what they did is arguably the worst possible scenario.
Yep.
Yep. That said, I mean, Doug needed to go. I think, regardless.
I think so too. I mean, look, there's too many mistakes along the way. Let me start off by a couple things. We already know this. Look, I'm always going to give it to the audience straight, right? From my gut, I'm not going to sugarcoat. I don't work for the team. I remained independent for a reason, and I made that decision a long time ago because it's really hard. To be an honest critiquer of the team, of the organization, when you have real good, friendly relationships inside. It's hard to do that. At least it was for me. And I learned the hard way with Jack Del Rio, although we're still friends. But I've told that story before where we got close, and then I'm ripping his team on the radio. And he's like, what are you doing? Like, what's going on? I'm like, Jack, your team's bad. Like, what do you want me to say? I can't sugarcoat. I'm not going to sugarcoat what I see out there on the field. I'm not saying I'm always right either. But I am going to give it to you straight, and I'm not going to, this and that. So let me start off by saying this. The press conference yesterday on Zoom, the owner's on Zoom. This is a humongous day for the Jacksonville Jaguars, the franchise, the history, and the fans in the city, and you have your press conference with the GM that you retained that's got everybody in an uproar, and you guys do it by Zoom? Doesn't that just seems like, as an organization, so low level? Like, do you not care enough to fly in? Now, are you overseas? I don't know. Are you in Illinois where your headquarters are? Are you on your boat? I have no idea. But you should have been sitting there next to the GM in front of everybody.
They should have been in the Miller Electric Center.
Electric Center. This should have been like, come on, man. Aren't we a first-class run organization? That's what the first-class run organizations do. So first and foremost, that really ticked me off. I was like, come on, man. What is this? This is so sophomoric. And it's fading in and out. It's not that sharp and yada, yada. Regardless of what was said out of Shad Khan and Trent Baalke. I thought that was a bad move. I thought that was a bad look, and to me, it kind of kind of where we're at, right? Because it doesn't feel like the owner cares as much as you would hope he does to win. Look, I know he cares about this city, but let me also say this. The real estate stuff, any billionaire, any million, anybody with money could see what a gold mine that's going to be for the city of Jacksonville. People that live here know that. They've been knowing that forever. So that he doesn't get extra credit for that. Oh, look what he's investing into the city. Now, helping people, different story. But building buildings, hotels, restaurants, events, all that's anybody can see with the right mind the real estate play there. That's a real estate heaven waiting to happen. And has been for so long. I'm glad he's doing it, don't get me wrong. But don't sit here and be like, oh, man, look what he's invested into the city. That's a real estate play, and that's going to make him even more wealthy, which is great. I'm glad he's doing it. But I separate what he's doing with that compared to what he's building with this organization.
The last sentence is the sentence. I was about to say, like, even if you want to give him credit for all that, and we have, right? When it's been justified
I know that's the answer. Well, no, but look what he's doing for the city.
Well, right.
He's also doing it for himself.
And first of all,
which he should. He's smart.
And first of all, when those things have happened, when they got the Stadium of the Future approved, when he has kept the team here, he has made the promise to Weaver, like in those moments, we've given him credit where it's due. So, because we have done that, this is a separate conversation.
Totally.
And when we've given him credit where it's due, so now we got to give him heat when it's due.
Yeah.
Right? And the simple fact of the matter is, as a non-football owner, the non-football side of things, Shad's arguably been an A+ as an owner.
Listen, he's a very good owner when it comes to how he gives resources to the team, and he takes care of his team, he takes care of his players, and he overpays average players. So why wouldn't you want to come here?
And the Mill Electric Center,
but he does.
And building the Electric Center was awesome, and the state, and that's all great stuff. But to the last sentence you said, these are separate buckets of conversation.
Absolutely.
The simple fact of the matter is, we've talked about this before, Tommy. Any given year in the NFL, you have a couple teams that surprise you being surprisingly good or surprisingly bad, right? Like the Niners this year are surprisingly bad. They'll be back. We all know.
They'll be back.
For the most part, though, the top echelon of the NFL are the same teams every year. And the bottom are the same teams every year. And that comes through firing coaches and through getting new quarterbacks and through getting new general managers. What is the constant of teams that are always good? It's ownership.
It's ownership, and it's the alignment of the GM and the head coach on what kind of player they want in that organization, and the owner sets the tone for that.
There it is. Like, the GM and the head coach get in that alignment because the owner sees to it that happens with his hirings.
Well, because that's who he wants.
Right.
This is what I want, right? You look at the Lions again. If you're going to mention Dan Campbell, you better mention Brad Holmes, the general manager, because he's filled that locker room with what? Dan Campbell guys, aren't they? I mean, they are. They love what he. Not listen. You go around the league now. When you're winning, it's better, of course. But when you go around the league, a lot of guys don't like that rah-rah. They don't want their coach, acting like I'm going to kick everybody's. Some of them get turned off by that. But you don't bring those guys into your locker room, regardless of the talent. You bring in guys that like that thrive under that are going to excel under that. So you better credit Brad Holmes if you're going to credit Dan Campbell. I mean, look, and I was thinking about him earlier in the car while I was outside. You look at, like, other organizations who've had, look at Minnesota. They've come on. They've got a nice connection with O'Connell and Kwesi. I don't know his entire name, but they've been together. They know what kind of player they want. You look at the organizations. Look, I know you Steeler fans aren't happy with Tomlin, but you look at that whole organization. It's been the same kind of standard, the same kind of coach every single time out of the three that they've had. There's a certain standard. Look at the old Seattle teams with Pete Carroll. No one gave him a chance. Guess what? John Schneider was a hell of a general manager. Fed him with the right kind of guys, the right kind of people. That's what you have to do in the National Football League in order to succeed. And we don't have that. And now you got a guy in the GM. This is what throws me off. Like Eric Armstead making his comments on the day that the head coach is fired, that he's now going to play inside, just shows me, or at least tells me, my opinion, there's some toxicity inside that locker room, but and the GM's involved. And is Eric involved? Was he involved in that tug of war? He's saying they wanted him to play end. There was no way they wanted him to play end. Against the run, I've always said this year. He's been good against the run as an end. He's not good against the pass because he takes too long to get there. When it's a passing down, he's great as a 3 technique, without question. But now all of a sudden, it's fishy. It's like, what? What are you talking about? Why wouldn't you have done that last year? Why you're saying it now? What you just came to this epiphany that I should move in on the day the guy's fired? Where were you week 3 or week 4? Or when, look, your first sack was against Miami. From what position? Defensive tackle. I mean, that was like your only sack. I think he had 2 sacks. He had a sack later on. By what position? Defensive tackle. So you knew you had success in week 1 at defensive tackle, but you never thought that, hey, maybe I should play there the entire time or most of the time. That to me says and that's what Trent Baalke's history is. That's what it is. It's some kind of bullshit, toxic, whatever, that if he don't like the coach, this is how he gets rid of the coach. Whatever reason, let's you go down the line when he was at San Fran. So look, Shad Khan believes in him for whatever reason. I don't know how you could sit and think about this too. Think of the setup. Oh, this is the best team ever assembled. Best team ever assembled. Shad Khan doesn't know football well enough to come up with that all on his own. And we all laughed at it because we know it's nowhere near true at all. Was that part of the setup? Hey, you know what? If we don't go well, I got to protect myself. And I'm going to tell the owner that, hey, this is the best ever. We should win. And when we don't look at me. Don't look at me. I gave them the players. You didn't give them the right players. And from what I hear is some of those players, not all, and a lot of them aren't like this, but some are, enough are. Too much of prima donnas. Don't like to be critiqued. Don't like to be corrected. Don't like to be, reprimanded for different things. Don't do the extra work. You can't live like that. You can't win in the NFL with that kind of crap inside your locker room, no matter who the coach is. It's not just the coach. I heard Tony, my friend and teammate Tony Baselli earlier this morning, it's coach-centric. No, to me, it's general manager-centric along with the head coach. You got to feed that coach with the right player. You got to feed him with the right kind of attitude. The kind of attitude that is just for 10 months. I said it yesterday. What do they got to work? 10 months? And 3 of those are like walking in the park. You got to go work out. Oh, big deal. I got to do a sprint workout and a weight workout. And then I got to go practice for a few hours, 4 days a week. What a tough gig that is. For 6 months, you got to stay dedicated. Total sacrifice. Do you have that across the board? You don't here in Jacksonville. You do not. You can see it. I shouldn't say half. A lot of them don't care. If they cared, they wouldn't make the same mistakes over and over and over and over and over again. If they cared, they wouldn't brush off. Oh, sorry I lined up offsides twice in a row. Yeah. So, you know what I mean? I mean, it's across the board. And I shouldn't say it's across the board because they got some young talent that I do think really cares. I do. And I think they're going to be like Jarian Jones to me. He wants to be a good player. He wants to leave his mark. Brian Thomas Jr., he wants to be a great player. You can see it. He cares about his performance. There's others, but there's others that I don't think really do. And that's the problem. So, look, I'm sorry Doug got fired, and he should have been fired with the GM because the record sucked, and the team was not getting any better, regardless of what was going on. And you kept losing the same way. You kept making bad mistakes, but you did it last Sunday. Have a great drive going. You got a false start, legal format, whatever it was. Kills you every single time. So the coaches for sure had to be held accountable. But how you don't hold the GM accountable is beyond me. It's his team too. And for the record, GM, I hear that GMs, they stay over here. No, he don't. He's on the field during camp all the time. He's walking around talking to players all the time. He's heavily involved. So this is very much his team as much as it is Doug Peterson and the staff. So whatever, look, we can't, you're not going to change anything. You fans react how you're going to react. I'm going to look forward to seeing who they bring in. You know what I mean? I'm not hope's not all lost. I don't believe in that just because of one guy. He's under one more year contract too. And that's back to my original, like both of them had 1 year left. Why not just say, hey, fans, I hear what you're saying, but I'm going to let this contract run out, and then we're going to bring, if we have to, give him another year. He didn't go that route. But I understand the uproar. And I don't know. I don't think his record's very good. I don't think Shad Khan, well, I know it's not good. His record as an owner is terrible. Just terrible. But he still does well, which is great. Listen, I'm not bagging on anybody for making a great living. He took the risk a long time ago. He built it. He deserves whatever he deserves. But he's got to care about a winning product. He does. And I don't know him that well.
And I think,
but I don't think he does 1,000%. I think he's 70. If we win, awesome. If we lose, now I got to do something. But I mean, the valuation's going to continue to go up. And by the way, the ticket sales, they want your tickets. They do. But at the end of the day, they're waiting for the new stadium. I mean, 1 year you're going to have 40,000, and next year you're not going to have any because they're going to be in another city playing. You know what I mean? They want your ticket. I'm not saying they don't, but I don't think you threatening to opt out of tickets is going to do anything. All due respect, and you fans do what you want.
Well, and even with a new stadium, ticket sales are, and this has been the case for 15-plus years now, ticket sales are not the straw that stirs the drink anymore.
Yeah. No.
It's a TV money.
TV.
So, I mean,
TV.
the league could have nobody show up, and they'd still make money from the TV contracts. I mean, we saw that the COVID year.
Well, and we also learned last year, if you remember, I learned, and I said it on here, that the revenue share for general admission is you got to share that with the rest of the owners.
Mm-hmm.
But the suites you keep. That's why the owners want these new stadiums with big suites and great suites, so they can sell them and they keep all the money.
Because they want, when the Chiefs come to town and Taylor Swift and her crew comes to pay $10,000 for that suite or whatever, that's what matters to them.
Right.
The big wigs in town that own big businesses and that kind of thing. I think, Tommy, back to your point about the best roster ever assembled thing, like Shad definitely didn't come up with that on his own, and we all know that. We all know Balky fed him that information. Shad did it again yesterday.
Yep.
When he said we were the most predictable team in the NFL. You think Shad watches the games and came up with that?
Nope.
Of course he didn't.
Nope. And this whole the new coach is going to report directly to him. Why? What? He doesn't have. You know what I mean? Like you're not talking ball. You might talk wins and losses. You might talk a play or two here, but you're not really talking ball. Why would he report to the owner? That makes no sense at all.
I also would have liked yesterday to get Shad to elaborate a little bit more on what report directly to me even means. To your point, like, okay, Doug reported directly to Shad.
Yeah.
And that doesn't really seem to matter because clearly when things weren't going well, Trent could just feed Shad as much nonsense as he wants, and Shad's going to believe every word he says. So when Trent starts planting the seed to save his own ass, it doesn't really matter what Doug. What was Doug supposed to say? Was there literally anything in the world Doug could have said that would have made Shad be like, "You're right. I'm keeping you. I'm getting rid of Trent"?
Yeah.
I don't think there's literally a sentence he could have said in the world.
No. And look, in the defense of the owner, I would have, if I was going to fire them both, I would have fired Doug for sure. You
mean Trent?
No, well, Trent too. I'm just saying, Doug's firings, it's warranted in my opinion.
Oh, 100%.
I don't think it's not warranted. But I think there's more to it than just the coaching. I do, and I think it's up to the GM to fill the right players. Look at Philly. Why is Philly? I mean, they're talking about getting rid of Sirianni, and they've got a great year going on. Is that coach-centric or is that player-centric picked by the GM? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. Look, again, it is what it is. I don't totally get it. I thought the press conference was Bush League, and shame on the owner and Trent for even agreeing to do it that way. Now, maybe he had to fly somewhere, I don't know, and he couldn't, but it's a big day, man. It's your team. You just fired your coach. And on the first press conference, you're doing it by Zoom. Weak sauce, if you ask me. I didn't like that at all. But what are you going to do, man? We're going to have to move on and see what we can do. Let me ask you this, and I know most people's answer, okay, because we're in Jacksonville. But even out there in Facebook land, I know not all of you, and hello to everybody. Good morning and Happy New Year and all that stuff. It's interesting. 3 of the openings have franchise QBs, potentially. Caleb, Drake May, and Trev. Now, Trev's going to go into his 5th year, so maybe this isn't fair. But out of those 3, if you're an offensive-minded coach, who do you want?
Trev.
Why?
Trev, because he is in his 5th year, so he has his shortcomings, but he is further along, objectively speaking.
Does he have habits that may be harder to break than maybe a first-year QB would have?
Perhaps.
Okay.
But I would take the guy that's still young,
Yeah, he is.
I would take the guy that has at least shown like he's made a playoff run. He's won a playoff game. Like he has some of the.
It was a long time ago. Gonna be 3 years ago this season.
And he's got his shortcomings for sure.
I'm just playing devil's advocate. I haven't said who I'd probably go with Trev too.
Yeah.
But I think there's an argument. I mean, you've got 2 young QBs and both those guys that they show promise.
Especially
Forget
Caleb.
You know what? Generational talent doesn't mean shit unless you can put it all together. It doesn't. I don't care how big your arm is if you can't be accurate on the majority of your throws. It doesn't matter. I don't care that if you can take off and run, you know? You know what I'm saying? Like, that stuff doesn't matter. Like, can you produce? Can you be efficient? Can you hit those routine throws? Can you hit the big plays? Can you avoid mistakes? Can you see the entire field? Do you know clock management? Do you know game? Like, all that stuff comes into play. It's great when you've got the QB that does have the big arm because now you can get really creative and whip it all over the place. You know what I mean? As opposed, like with Mac. Mac doesn't have a big arm. It limits it. By the way, the pick to BTJ, he threw it late. Remember against Houston before Trevor got hurt? It was the same route and the same ending. He underthrew him, and the DB picked it off because he threw it late. They still, after all this time, haven't figured out how fast Brian Thomas Jr. is on the post route. It's all about timing. Doesn't mean they can't throw it there. Just means they didn't throw it on time. Neither one of them. Now, they've hit too, so, you know, it's sometimes you hit, sometimes you miss. Well, I don't know. Look, I've been looking at the candidates, and Trevor's very important in this equation. He is. But the defense is very important in my opinion. And I know I'm a defensive guy, very important in my opinion. We so underperformed this season. We were so bad this season. And I got to wonder, I mean, look, go back to the best roster. You benched Darby with 4 weeks to go. You brought him in. That's the best? You know what I mean? You extended Tyson Campbell, who got schooled Sunday. You didn't give him monster contract, but you upgraded him pretty good. Should have waited on that one. By the way, I heard Baselli say that Walker Little and Anton Harrison are going to be a top 10 tackle tandem. Now, granted, last time I challenged Tony when it was with the sack counts, right? 2 years ago, I said they wouldn't get over 25. He said they would. I said they'd be smoking ayahuasca or whatever you call that stuff. I don't know. I don't see top 10 out of those guys. I don't. I think you should upgrade the tackle position, to be honest with you, and make one of them your swing tackles. I would prefer Anton have another year to see what he could do. But, you know, we know what we got out of Walker Little. He's fine, solid, but he's not, you know, someone you can just forget about. You're going to have to chip with him. You have to keep a tight end with him from time to time, depending who's playing. He can't handle, now, not many guys can handle Myles Garrett one-on-one, but he can't handle him. He can't handle Micah Parsons. He can't handle T.J. Watt. He can't handle the big guys one-on-one. No way. And hasn't shown any of that. Maybe a little bit on occasion, but not consistently. So I think you do have to upgrade in that. I think you got to upgrade a lot. I do find it really, I don't even know the word for it, that Eric Armstead would make that statement about moving inside. Like, that just shows me how toxic everything was between the coach, some of the players, and the GM, and who caused it all. I don't know. I'm not in the locker room, but that just showed, like, now you're going to be a team player? Doug's probably going, what? Really? You know what I mean?
Could
it be Ryan Nielsen saying, I need you at end?
That's kind of what I arrived
I think
at.
that's a BS excuse is what I think that is.
Well, the reason I think it kind of tracks is he had wonky D-line rotations all year. You know what I'm saying? He's the guy
at the end he didn't.
Well, because he didn't really have a choice.
Rotating.
Because he didn't have much of a choice. But early in the season, when it was kind of his whole brainchild of what was going on, he was taking Josh Hines-Allen and Trayvon off the field a lot. He's putting Jeremiah Ledbetter in there a lot. I think this was above Nielsen's head, but they're healthy scratching Mason Smith. Like, there was a lot of funky stuff. Eric Armstead playing DN maybe number one.
I don't think a 10-year vet would go to the GM and the head coach and say, hey, you know I'm better inside.
Yeah.
Play me inside.
Yeah. I don't know.
Why would you come out on the day the coach gets fired that you're going to play inside?
The fact that he did it.
It's so, like, fishy to me.
The fact that he did it right as the coaching staff got fired leads me to believe that it was a coaching staff decision to play him in.
Did Balky ask him to do it? I don't know.
Or another possible theory, because this is kind of how Balky operates. This isn't very far out of his realm.
Yep.
What if Balky brought him in and wanted him to play end, or just told him he could play end to get him here, and then when he wasn't any good at end, and they fire the coaching staff,
yep.
Balky and Eric kind of get together and flip this narrative. Well, we wanted him to play tackle always, so
right.
so he doesn't seem
kind of like the best team ever assembled comment.
Right. Well, and it's the least popular guy in town, and the easiest guy to blame is the guy that just got fired.
Yep.
Right. So even though this could have been a stupid Eric decision or a stupid Trent decision,
yep.
they're still here. So why not just go ahead and blame Doug and Nielsen, who aren't here?
Yeah, right.
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 You know, Shad's saying we were the most predictable team in the NFL. It's really easy to say that now that Press Taylor and Doug Peterson are fired.
Yeah, really.
Right? You know what I mean? Like, and this happened last year.
Yep.
Right? They fell short last year. They completely collapsed at the end of the season. And Doug had to do a little bit of saving his own ass last year. By just saying, oh, well, it can't possibly be my side of the ball.
Right.
It's all the defense. So
right.
we need.
Did that come from Balky? The word is Balky wanted a new defensive coordinator.
Maybe
you know
so.
What I mean?
Right. But
who was really running the team?
Either way, whether it's Doug, Trent, or both,
yep.
Shad said in the interview yesterday
yep.
that he met with them last year and was like, what's going on? What do we need to do? Trent is a guy that a lot of the rumors that Nielsen was his hire the whole time. And Doug is an offensive coach. So, how do we make a scapegoat? Well, let's just say it was all Mike Caldwell and his staff, and they're just terrible.
Yep.
Right? Yep. So then going into this offseason, we can be like, well, you know, we got them out of here, so we're fine.
Right.
The guys here, we're all great.
Right.
But.
All right, so let me throw this at you. You take Ryan Nielsen's defense. Struggled most of the year. When Ryan Nielsen first came in, he said, what? My defense is centered around my two corners. Remember, everyone's like, oh, man, we're so excited you play man-to-man, you play man-to-man. He's like, that's funny because I'm glad you think it's man, but it's not man. It's actually zone, and it's two-man press, which looks like man, especially from the cornerback position. What if they didn't have the personnel to play man? Why is he playing Darby in off coverage? Because maybe he couldn't play man, and I have no other resort. I get retort. He's got to play zone. You know, he's got to play off zone, and he sucks at that. Tyson Campbell's not much better at man. Is he?
we all kind of assume.
So I'm saying, but my point is, like, the GM is a part of this whole thing. Like your free agent class was part of it. Like Savage, what did Savage do? Why'd you get rid of Jenkins? He's still balling for Seattle.
Way better than Savage.
Way better than Savage. Why'd you get rid of that? You know? I mean, you look at like the interior defensive line. You got and all due respect to these guys, but Jeremiah Ledbetter, Lacey, Hamilton, Abdullah. Those guys, they're not difference makers at all.
They don't belong.
I don't get that at all. Like Abdullah, they line up outside, rush it. He runs into the tackle and thinks he's gonna. I don't know. He doesn't do anything. I'm sorry, Yasir, but when we drafted you, oh wow, he led the ACC in pressures. See how much pressures mean jack shit? They don't mean anything. It's pressure. But what about those? You know what I mean? Now look, Trent has had some good picks. There's no doubt. He made some good moves. There's no doubt. I don't think he got lucky with Brian Thomas Jr. I think he played his cards. He thought the way they would go, and they went that way. You got to give him credit for that. Can't say, oh, he got lucky because he kept trading back. No, maybe he knew these other teams weren't going to pick him. So he felt comfortable moving back to get that extra pick. And I know that makes ownership happy. Oh, well, look what he's done at certain things. Okay. Well, then look at the negative, too. Look at Devin Lloyd that you moved up in the draft for.
Who still has no idea what he's doing.
Not a stud. You know? Tyson Campbell's a second rounder. He's okay. He'd be on my team, but he ain't no stud defender. You know? I mean, you could go down the list. You could say good. Brenton Strange, I like. I like Tank Bigsby. I like ETN. I like Ingram. You know, there's plenty of guys. Kirk, I love Kirk that he brought in. I like Parker. I think Parker's a good draft pick. But the problem is when you get this toxic environment, it ain't going to work, man. It's not going to work.
And we talked about this last week, too. It's not.
Excuse me, just for a quick second. And by the way, that's his reputation. That's Trent's reputation. From San Fran, it was the same stuff. Pulled the same kind of stuff. I'm telling you. He's the big problem. My opinion.
And we talked about this last week. It's not that Trent Baalke hasn't brought in good players.
No, I know.
He obviously, you just went over a lot of hits that he's had, and that's awesome. The issue is, in my opinion, relative to what he has been given resource-wise to bring in players, it has not been enough.
No.
Because it would be one thing if this was his draft track record the past couple of years, which has been decent.
Yeah.
And they were picking 25th every year because they were in the playoffs or making runs in the playoffs or whatever. This is a team that picks in the top 10 most of the time. Yep. You should be. It's what you say all the time. You don't get extra credit because you draft the top. If Trayvon Walker pans out, you don't get extra credit for that.
No.
He's number one overall pick.
Yeah. And I like him. I'm glad
he's
on our team. I really am.
I do too, but that's not
better.
I do too, but that's not a wow. Look at what Trent Ball. It's like no, he's the number one overall pick, man. Right. And
it's
even
supposed to work out.
And people, there's the Hutch versus Walker debate. Even if they had taken Hutch, Walker would have gone top 5.
Oh yeah.
Like this was a stud that you lucked into because you were awful in 2021, right?
Right.
So and he's been given a ton of cap space to work with. Like his first season, they had a bunch of money to spend. Like he's been given it's not a lot of GMs have to operate with one hand tied behind their back because they're strapped for cap space. They're picking. Look at the Steelers. They don't have a ton of cap space. They're picking late in the draft, like whatever.
Well, and they win, or at least 500, which makes them pick later.
Right.
Yep.
And then to your point, this entire time, he is not in alignment with Doug on getting the right guys to make sure they have the right culture that is always going to be hold people accountable and do the correct things.
Right.
Doug's I was thinking about this the other day. You look at Doug's 2017 Super Bowl team.
Yeah.
That team was loaded with vets that have been around, that have done stuff, and one can only assume because they went and won a Super Bowl and these guys have been around for a while, that these are self-starting dudes that have made their own career in the league already.
If Doug's going to coach the way he coaches, that's what you need.
Right.
I'm saying that forever.
Right. That was clearly a player-held accountability locker room, right? Mm-hmm. And Trent, I think, is more so, I want the projects. I want the crazy Mason Smith, right? I want a guy that maybe was hurt in college, so didn't live up to his production, perhaps. But, like, if he realizes his potential, man, can this guy be a stud? That type of thing.
I think Mason can be a stud. What do you think? I think it's more than the injury that kept him out. I think that was part of the issue. And that was maybe Doug's way to say, hey, man, you want to do this to me? Then guess what? I'm going to healthy scratch him.
I agree.
And by the way, I'm healthy scratching your 4th-round pick, too, Jordan Jefferson, because Ledbetter and Lacey are better.
Right.
Sorry, but they shouldn't be based on that draft pick, you know.
And who's the – because I was thinking about this back to the 2017 thing with the Eagles. Like, on this team, who's the Jason Kelsey that's like the vocal leader that's going to get guys going?
Yeah. Who
is the – they had
I don't know who's like in the locker room. Who is that? And it's not just that. Let me throw this at you, okay? When I say they don't care enough, it's true, and I'll tell you why. Because if you cared enough as a player, you wouldn't make the same mistake after 1 or 2 times. You just wouldn't make it anymore. You wouldn't. You wouldn't bite on that underneath route. You wouldn't be lost in space and coverage. You wouldn't, be out of position in the run game. You know what I mean? You wouldn't. You'd fix it. And how would you fix it? By studying, by watching film, by critiquing, by either by yourself or with your teammates or what have you. Do they care enough? I don't think they do. I don't think all of them do. I don't think enough of them do. That they care so much. Hey, the money's great. The fame's great. Everything that goes with it is great. But you got to care about your performance every single week as a team, first individually and as a team, and not greater than the team. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. I don't care how talented. You don't show up in the NFL. Nobody's good enough. Hardly anybody's good enough to just show up. I'll tell you who works at his craft. Number 7. When he first got here, you thought what? Oh, he'd run the fly pattern, maybe the post, deep post. That guy runs everything. His slant is unbelievable. His deep out is unbelievable. The way he sets up guys, unbelievable. He got better and better throughout the year because why? Because he cared about his performance. And there are other guys that did too, but there are plenty of guys that don't, especially on defense, or you still wouldn't make those stupid mistakes. And not just out of alignment. Just not being aware, like not knowing, like being so tunnel visioned. Our safeties were terrible this year overall. Out of position, jumping on underneath routes, leaving guys with no help. It was awful. And they targeted you. They would target Cisco from the other side because they knew what? He's looking over here. He don't even see me coming. They did it to Savage. They did it to whoever played back there.
And also, none of these guys have the speed. If you got a receiver that can get to the corner, those safeties are going to get out.
They're never going to get there.
Never.
They're never going to get there.
I mean, this defense makes Alec Pierce look like Jerry Rice, man. How come every time Alec Pierce plays against the Jaguars, he goes? I mean, he's a good receiver.
Did I not extend my cornerback Tyson Campbell to take care of that guy?
Correct.
Isn't that why I redid his deal? He didn't. He got his ass kicked. So what is that? What do I do with that? Now I'm a new coach coming in, and I got to deal with him, who I think he's okay. You got a bunch of okay players, and then a handful of really good players, and maybe one that's great or two that's borderline great. Other than that, they're just okay. And if they're just okay, you better be disciplined, and you can't make mistakes. Doesn't mean you can't win with them. It just means you got to do everything else a lot better than the other team. Like not go off sides, like not false start, like not be in a legal formation, like not kick ourselves in the ass when we're in the red zone, None of that. You can't make mistakes because you're not good enough talent-wise to just overtake the other team. And not many teams are. They have to execute. They can't make mistakes. But we look at our year. Filled with them. Filled with them. Horse shit.
No team in the NFL has depth across the board.
No, I don't know why. With all the cap, our backups could start. Maybe they didn't fill the void all the way, and not everybody, but a lot of us, we could play all day long.
And that's kind of the point, is like in these other organizations with good culture, good locker room, good accountability, they're set up to where when your middle linebacker goes down, you can put the backup in. He knows what he's doing. He's in the right spot. He's making plays. And back to the point you made about Tyson Campbell being just okay, but he got paid. That goes back to Balky planting the seed. And you were on this. You deserve credit. You were on this before anybody was with Walker Little in the Walker Little extension.
You don't make that move unless the owner says you can, and that, no, he's still working. So you don't make that move without the owner's approval, knowing that you're not getting fired.
I wholeheartedly agree. And to add even further to that, and I think Tyson Campbell's part of this too, I believe that's been part of Balky's plan to save his own ass, to stick with that theory. Because I believe by the end of the year, Balky's entire thing going to Shad is to be able to look at him and say, look, this team wasn't good on the field because of coaching. Yeah. I got you a franchise quarterback that's under contract. I got you a left tackle. I got you a corner. I got you a wide receiver. I got you 2 defensive ends. So all the cornerstone positions, I've got you a guy there. I've got you a premium dude because he's paid. Well, that doesn't mean he's premium. That just means he got paid.
Right. And
I believe Josh Hines-Allen has shown that at times, but it's never been and he wasn't a Balky pick, but he's still on the team, obviously.
Do we know why he missed last week?
No, it's personal. I'm not sure
what that was.
No.
I hope he's okay and everything's okay.
Yeah.
I haven't heard anything.
But like Tyson Campbell, if you don't pay Tyson Campbell,
right?
If they had not extended him, then right now, like this offseason, we'd be talking about moving on from him probably.
He's drafted a corner in the first round, possibly.
Right.
Right. I mean, if there's one there to take.
So Trent wouldn't have been able to say, well, I've gotten you a franchise corner. Right. But because they paid him.
Well, on top of that, Graham, remember when Shad came out and said this is the best team assembled, he also said he wants draft picks developed and re-signed. And what did Trent do? Walker Little, Tyson Campbell. That's two examples, right? That did what you told me to do.
And Trevor.
And Trevor, yeah, which we'll see if that works out. I hope it does. All right, let's get into potential candidate. I'm done bitching because we got to move up. It is what it is. I don't agree with it, but I don't, whatever. Just win, baby. Just win, and I'll be happy. Because if you don't win, we'll do the same thing over and over again.
We're all pissed. I am too. And
I'm all in.
And
man.
it's
I'm
fresh.
a Jag for life. I'm not going to turn my back on them.
But listen, like any of y'all that are diehard Jags, if you're telling yourself when they kick off this coming September that you're not going to watch, you're lying to yourself. Yes, you are.
Come on. You may not buy the tickets to go to the game. Hey, listen, I go for nothing, and I don't go if they don't win.
Yeah.
I'm not wasting my time. I'll sit on my couch and watch it, and I record it, and I watch it again. I'll be honest, I didn't watch the Colts game again. I wrote down the team stats, but I don't think I'm going to do that because there's too much big news, and at the end of the day, we sucked anyway. Taylor kicked our ass, 5.2 yards a carry. Terrible. And you know what? We just been soft. We're soft physically up front, and it's got to get better. But look, he's made his decision. I know people are holding out this hope. Well, he didn't say he's going to stay forever. Look, you're not going to allow him to pick your next coach or be involved in that. You're not going to allow him to pick your next draft or be involved if you're just going to get rid of him. That makes no sense at all. I don't see that happening either. But let's look at the candidates for 2025 of your Jacksonville Jaguars potential head coaches, and we'll go through it. Brought to you by Team Tommy Mac. Please check them out, TommyMac.net. I tell you, they are always there for you when you need them. Get thrown in jail? Check. Need new flooring? Check. Need a new automobile? Check. Need some help with personal injury law? Check. You need help with getting rid of your junk and getting it refurbished and given to veteran families in need? Check. Some of the best sausage in town, without a doubt. Check. The best commercial real estate group? Check. Man, they keep checking. Helping you with your financial when you're talking about your businesses. Got that with Freedom Finance. Check. You need some hot sauces? Damn right you do. You need Coconut Joe's. We got that one too. Check. You want your kids involved in tech? You better, because that's the way the world has been going and continues to go. Check. Got that with Code Ninjas, a really kick-ass place to stay in Atlantic Beach, just by the beach and by all the action. A boutique hotel? Check. Salt Air Inn and Suites. And, of course, a State Farm agent to handle all your needs. Bet mine forever. Should be yours too. Michael Nichols of State Farm. I love all of my team, Tommy Mac, because they get it done the right way every single time. Please check them out again on TommyMac.net. And when I share them, I always tag, their handle. So if you wouldn't mind, hit the handle, and we will be very happy and thankful for all of that. All right, so here are the candidates.
Tommy, may I interrupt? I'm sorry to interrupt you.
We got breaking news?
I have breaking news for you from like 20 minutes ago, but we were still on the show.
Okay.
From Rap Sheet, because I know what you're about to get into, and it's relevant.
Okay.
The Jaguars have just put in a request to interview Bucs offensive coordinator Liam Cohen.
Yep.
His first known request for this cycle.
Okay, he's on the list.
So the Jags are the first team to request to talk to him.
Okay.
Won't be the last, but just thought that was relevant to break
I like
through real
it.
quick.
He's on the list. I mean, he's a hot name on the list. Got a great wide receiver. Man, Mike Evans broke the retired Jerry Rice. Pretty awesome. Baker Mayfield, awesome. He is a dog. You know what I mean? I like that kid or young man a lot. He's a baller. He's a baller.
They're tough up front too, man.
Yeah, they are. They're physical. Listen,
they run the ball.
And look, and I know what I said about the tackles, but overall, the O-line was not the problem this year. It was a little bit with the run, but I tell you, if you watch the film on the running game, a lot of it is the backs not being in the right time. The timing is off, or they miss the hole. I'm telling you, you go watch. So overall, I don't think they were that bad. They need to get a little bit more beefier up front, in my opinion, a little bit more attitude. But if you look at it from a whole, the O-line is not least, but one of the lower on my totem pole of concerns for 2025.
Last things I know when I get to the candidates real quick. Just talking about the line, because I agree with you. It was not the biggest problem this year.
They were fine. They weren't great, but they were solid.
But I will say, I think for this team to get back to a team that could potentially have Super Bowl aspirations and you could see in the Super Bowl, the offensive line needs to not be the problem. It needs to be the solution.
I agree.
I think.
The identity.
Yes.
Can we get that?
Yes.
And that's one thing I'd like to ask Shad Khan. What is your standard? What's your identity for a team? Like, what kind of team do you want to have? Right? Go back, and I don't know why I just thought that, but go back to the old Raiders. Al Davis loved the renegade. He loved the bad boy. He loved the borderline illegal player or play. He just wanted to win. And he told his players, I don't care what you do off the field, just come to play on Sunday and win. Now, it's a different time, right, obviously. But what did he do? He went out and got a bunch of vagabond, nasty, mean, tough, physical, mentally, emotionally tough football players, and they won championships.
And I don't know what it is, Tom, but I was thinking about this the other day, too. Like, for whatever reason, go throughout Jag history, the best teams have been teams that have some attitude.
Yeah, swag.
Talk a little mess.
Yep.
Come, like,
borderline get arrested on the weekend for, assault and battery. Sure.
17 team, enough said. Like, that's Jacksonville. Like, even 2022, like, even something as simple and dumb as Arden Key coming out with the boom box and they were getting hype. And, I think that kind of helped them set a little tone, though. And they'd play the game with a little edge and a little chip. And
Tell me you couldn't have used that guy for the past year.
Exactly. And it's not, like, in dating back to you guys. Yeah. Like, y'all were bad SOBs, man. Like, y'all were ready to kick ass. Like, Tony didn't want to just block people. He wanted to bury them. Yep. You, like, the 2000s Del Rio teams.
That attitude came
the 2000s Del Rio teams, you had Henderson and Stroud and intimidation, man. And I don't know. That was a thought.
No, I know. Well, it came from how – look, you look at all Coughlin's draft picks. They're all the same kind of person.
Yeah.
We all look different. We're all built different. But our mentality, pretty much the same. You know what I mean? That's what you got to have, my opinion. All right, let's look at the candidates. So Liam Cohen from the Bucks getting an interview by the Jacksonville Jaguars. That just came out. Okay, I'm cool with that. Whatever. Look, I think that, and again, it's going to be said ad nauseum, but this whole you get rid of the coach but not the GM. GM's on a one. I mean, are you going to extend him? What if the next coach doesn't work out? Then what do you do? Are you then getting rid of the GM and then, or you know what I mean? Like things just can happen. Either you clean the house or you don't. Especially with a team that's not won. Hardly at all. Hardly at all. All right, Liam Cohen on the list, of course. All right, not in any order. Not in any order. You got Vrabel, Mike Vrabel, defensive coordinator type coach. Ben Johnson, we all know that name. Brian Flores, the defensive coordinator of the Vikings. He's a very aggressive play caller. I like that. Cliff Kingsbury, who is the Washington offensive coordinator this year. Be interesting. I wonder if Poles is going to be I know Ben Johnson's going to interview with the Patriots and the Bears, or at least we've been told that.
Also, I just saw as well the Jaguars put in a request to interview Ben Johnson.
Hey,
not surprising. They should
interview them all, man. But with him and with Kingsbury, I was trying to say with Kingsbury and Caleb at USC, would Poles go and try to put that together? I wouldn't. I don't think Kingsbury's a head coach yet or will ever be. I don't know. Aaron Glenn, I like him. I think he'd be a good candidate as long as he's got the right offense coordinator, because you do have to center everything around Trevor on that side of the ball. There's just no doubt about it. And you got to fix whatever needs to be fixed, and there does need to be fixed. He's got to be more accurate and more aware of what's going on. He's got all the tools to do it. We've been through this, so don't get all your panties in a wad. He's been great on occasion. He's been good at times, and he's been really poor at times and not good enough at times. So hopefully they can hone that all in. Year 5, I mean, you should know by now, but we'll see. With the extension, you got to give him a little bit more time. And I do think you can win with Trevor. I do, without a doubt. I really believe you can win with Trevor Lawrence. But you better have a good defense to go along with it, because I don't think it's going to be shootout after shoot. It's hard to do that in the league anyway. There's no doubt about that. All right, I don't know why Rex Ryan's getting any love at all. I don't know. Not for us, but even with the Jets, you're like, really, Rex? What are you going to bring to the table that is going to change? He said he would change Aaron Rodgers' country club status or whatever. Did you see that? I don't know. I tell you, the guy that also gets me a little bit jacked up is Joe Brady. Joe Brady coached Burrow at LSU, and obviously Josh Allen with Buffalo. He's 35 years of age, got a young, innovative mind. Comes from Sean McDermott, who's a defensive-minded coach, who's all business, appears to have a lot of discipline on his team, a lot of togetherness or a close-knit group, it seems like. So Joe Brady could be an interesting guy that could fit with Trevor Lawrence.
Joe Brady has, and with his track record of offenses, he's got this ability to unlock superstars, if that makes sense.
Like those two,
like guys that were really good, you could tell have all the potential in the world. Like Josh Allen's ridiculous, right?
Yep.
Their offense this year is on a level it's never been since Josh Allen's been in Buffalo, and he's more efficient. He throws less interceptions now, because that was always his thing.
Yeah, it's too many chances.
Is for every amazing 50-yard touchdown he'd throw a head-scratching pick, right?
He's got one of the greatest skill sets in the league, I think.
No, I agree.
Height, strength, arm strength, athletic ability, all of that. He's up there near the top, if not the top.
And I believe that before Joe Brady came into his life, I think a lot of the shortcomings of Josh were some things that Trevor struggles with.
Yep.
And
I agree with that.
And they get this guy in who's clearly got a good track record with QBs, clearly knows how to design an offense around what they're most comfortable with and whatever. And now Josh Allen's probably going to win MVP.
Yeah.
I'm not saying Trevor, if they hire him, that Trevor's going to be MVP next year. I'm just saying,
well,
I think a lot of the inefficiencies There's reason to believe he would be able to limit a lot of the inefficiencies and maximize the good stuff.
So when Trevor doesn't take what's given to him on third down and tries to go deep, right? He does that a lot.
Yep.
I believe that's just in his belief in his arm.
Yeah.
And I think Josh Allen had that and still does. Like, and I've never obviously been a QB, but I can understand, like, if you have such a good arm, you feel like you can fit it anywhere. You feel like because of the velocity, you can put it in the hole, no problem. You know what I mean? And you're willing to take that chance. But at the end of the day, that's not being the most efficient if it does, especially if it doesn't work out. You overthrow it, you underthrow it, you throw it too far out. You know what I mean? Then it's like, man, you got to take what's given to you. You got to take the first down. We got to live another day. You got to see that field. I think Josh Allen had some of that too. Now, Josh, on the other side, he's been a lot more productive than Trevor, without a doubt.
Because Josh would he'd throw double-digit picks, but he'd also throw 35 touchdowns.
Correct.
So, yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, and look, you and I have always said this, Trevor ball. Josh Allen plays a lot of Trevor ball. He takes off and makes things happen. Now, you know, this year it felt a little weird with Trevor, and I know the hit and all that, but even before, there was one game that he ran decisively. Do you remember that? Remember, it was like, because the week before, he was kind of like, not running like with defiance, you know, like when you take off and run, I mean, you kidding me? You're like in open water. The sharks are coming to eat you. You got to, like, you can't be like lackadaisical. You got to be, you know what I mean? I want to see more of that out of Trevor.
Was it the Patriots game? Was it the Patriots game that he was really running like that?
I honestly can't remember what it was, but it was like, man, this is what I'm talking about, you know, because it's so dangerous when you're a defense and that quarterback can take off and run and get that first down. And you can't get hit. You got to be careful with all that. But I want to see more of that. But look, they got to find a guy that can help. And I'm okay. Look, Aaron Glenn to me I would like that a lot because I know he's going to hold him accountable. I don't think there was a lot of accountability in the building. I still don't think there's a lot of accountability in the building. I do think there's too much brother-in-law going on inside the locker room. I do. I think that my bad, it's okay. Get him next time. That can spread like wildfire, and you just become this cosm, I guess, of just a group of that, like, whatever, we can do whatever, you know, whatever.
And that builds on itself.
You can't touch us anyway. We're pro players. We're the ones making the money. We're the ones out on the field. Okay, we're not winning, but so what? You're not even a part of this, so what do you know? And I don't care. Entitlement, whatever it is. So you got to get someone to come in here, and you got to cut that fat out, man. It's got, look, you can have all the fun you want. Winning's fun. Winning's fun. Guess what, like, winning does for you? Gets you a day off. Guess what winning does for you? You don't have to do extra conditioning by the coach. You should do it on your own. But you know what I mean? It's like everybody's happier. Everything works. Everything's good. You got to get the right players in that locker room in order to start winning. And it's not just the talent. It's, do they hold themselves accountable? Do they hold each other accountable? I'm going to say no, they don't. And maybe not across the board, but you can't have that much bad play and drops and missed assignments and bad routes. You know, you just can't have as many as they have if they had that inside the locker room. So you got to make sure that happens.
And that accountability piece, that builds on itself over the course of a season. And when you're not holding people accountable, it just gets worse and worse, right? Because like think about, I don't mean to pick on him, but it's just an example of this, like Devin Lloyd, okay?
Yep.
Clearly does not know on every single coverage where he needs to be.
No.
Okay?
Right.
Well, that's training camp stuff, right? That's first couple weeks of training camp, when acclimation period, going through the coverages, where you need to be on cover 2 versus cover 3 versus man versus whatever. So if you're not having a defensive coordinator and a linebackers coach, that if he messes something up day 2 of camp, is like, why did you go here when you were supposed to go here? Mm-hmm. Oh, what? No. Right. Like, and kind of like, not humiliate, but like kind of embarrass him a little bit in front of people. And no, this is what you need to do. And then if he messes it up day 3, do it again.
But
like,
Grammage, this is what I'm talking about. You got to have the guys that are going to respond to that positive.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You got to have that makeup of guys. I'm telling you, go back to Detroit again. That in-your-face rah-rah. That's not for everybody, but it is for the Detroit Lions because they got a bunch of guys that believe in that. Kevin O'Connell, excuse me, he's not rah-rah, but it's working for him too. Why? Maybe he's got the right guys that can thrive under the way he coaches. He's got a great offensive mind, but how is he as a disciplinarian? You know, how is he as a guy holding his guys accountable? They got to be accountable. You don't have a great season without being accountable.
Yeah.
It just doesn't happen.
No.
Talent alone will never get you there. So, I don't know. All right, Jag fans, listen, man, take it slow. Take it easy, man. It's going to be okay. You know, we've got a lot of work to do, and hopefully, you know, I don't know. I can't say I have faith in anything, but there are some good candidates out there, like we went through. Vrabel, I'd be okay with Vrabel. It's all going to come down to who are they bringing in as their coordinator, you know, and who's going to take care of Trevor. And that could be Flores, that could be Vrabel, and that could be Aaron Glenn for me. Because you know what they're going to bring? They're going to bring accountability. There's just no doubt about it. There's not going to be any messing around. It's all football. You're going to be held accountable, and you better get used to it because that's what you need in order to succeed. So, they got to come with the right coordinator. You know what I mean? On offense. You got to take care of Trevor. Trevor's got to be number one, but let me rephrase this. Attitude's got to be number one. Change in attitude, and then Trevor's got to be 1A for sure, or 1B. You know what I mean? He's got to be part of that main big top, part of the equation. But I think you got to change that. You got to, and again, I'll go back to Shad Khan. What do you want? Like, what's your standard? Don't give me just fluff. What is it? You know, what kind of player do you want? What kind of coach do you want? You picked what kind of GM you want, and I don't know if, see how that works out. His record sucks, too, for the record. Can't blame it all on coaching. It's not all on coaching. I'm telling you right now, it is. A lot of it is. There's no doubt. But a lot of it is on that GM not putting the right players inside that locker room that can thrive under the kind of coaching that Doug Peterson came to the table with. I don't know. I didn't mind. I'll just use myself as an example. Now, granted, I'm a little bit different, but Coughlin's yelling at never bothered me because most of the time it was warranted. I missed a play or had a bad day. You know what I mean? Like, you yell at you. My dad yelled at me when I got in trouble. Sometimes he whacked me, open hand, So what? I knew not to do that again, and I didn't,
I love that Coughlin clip in training camp with the Giants.
Yeah.
We just lost the game because of a legal procedure.
Yeah.
I love that clip so much.
But that's, look, you could, and it's hard to get players to buy into this year round, but one play in week 4 that you screw up could cost you a shot at the playoffs. One play. And you got to have those kind of players in that locker room that can thrive under that because it is true. One missed assignment, one missed tackle, one blown block, one bad interception, one fumble. It could cost you your chance to go to the playoffs. That's how important it's got to be. So we haven't had that. The GM doesn't bring that to the table. So the coach didn't, I guess. Didn't appear to be. So the new coach hopefully will. Listen, Jags for life for me, man. No doubt about it. I want nothing more than this team to win and bring you guys a championship. Everything's better when the Jags win. Everything is better. In my life, in your life, in this city's life, everything's better when the Jags win. So let's, still going to hold them feet to the fire, man. Like I said in the beginning, I don't work for the team. I'm not a shill for the team. I'm not. If you work for the team, you got to toe the line. I get it. I get it. You can't be bashing the team if you work for the team. They get rid of you. You know what I mean? It's just the way it is. It's okay. It's okay. But you'll always get it straight right here from the gut, from the heart on Catching Up with Tommy Mac. Thanks to Team Tommy Mac. Thanks to all of you on Facebook. Really appreciate it. Thanks to all of you out there in the podcast watching and listening land. We greatly appreciate all the support. So till next time, stay safe, be cool. Be cool. Stay safe. We'll see you right here on Catching Up with Tommy Mac. Peace and love, everybody. Have a great day. We'll see you on Friday.